Tasla, Carol Kuzambo was Shvela, the regional directors, the head of management, and officials. I think it's a good opportunity for all authority. We have been looking for such kind of occasion to create awareness specifically on the role of Royal Audit Authority as a supreme audit institution there. It's not only to BBC. We have been trying to ensure that these things are being done on a regular basis to other audited agencies, since we are also most important stakeholders of Royal Audit Authority. It's very important that we come to a common understanding about the overall accountability mechanism. Program we do not have that specific presentation. It's a general awareness and sensitization programs in China. Now, auditing details, auditing that specific that would be too technical, may not be required also. It's beyond your requirement. So we thought that generally on the role of Royal Audit Authority in promoting good governance in the public sector. So basically, we'll be going through what kind of role RAA is expected to play as a supreme audit institutions. Royal Audit Authority, any other country, the country's auditing institution is known by the name Supreme Audit Institution, just like a Supreme Audit Court. Then the role of SAI. Everyone is a stakeholder to enhancing good governance in the country. Basically, not to lead to a situation of misplacing expectations. We should limit our role to that. Now we good governance, the ECC, the RAA, we limit our role here. So, any basic understanding, I think we need to have such kind of some kind of collaborations and sensitization programs on a regular basis. So, some of our general role and role of Royal Audit Authority, and we'll also share some experiences of the irregularities that are happening. And some of the instances as such, some kind of examples. Then also as a public sector auditor, the principles together we follow, how do we ensure our professionalism, and also more importantly, the guy, I think everyone in this room is affected by the work of Royal Audit Authority, not in a negative sense, but on a positive sense, because audit job, everybody is, you must have experienced auditors, you must have experienced the work of the auditors through audit observations, audit reports, and it's very important that we know the audit process they have been doing. So we have touched on the audit process also, audit report take based on the follow-up. How do we ensure logical conclusion to the issues reported in the report? So start with it's always better to appreciate the past. So much in audit, how did RAA came into existence, or the audit institution came into existence in the country? And run briefly, not go through the whole history, just to get a glimpse of how the institution has evolved over the time. So to start with the launching of the first 5-year plan, the conceptualized panel, there is a need for audit institutions. There were to be so many developmental activities coming in, funds that needs to be funded to finance the development activities. The country expected some kind of some irregularities, mismanagement, and also the abuse of authorities. So need for the audit institution in the country was felt, along with the launch of the first 5-year plan 1961. Then we had this Accounts and Audit Committee under the Department of Development to being established in 1963. It took almost 8 years to establish that. A small committee would have been a committee of 3 or 4 people representing various sectors, and also it was also a kind of institutionalizing of financial services. manual for financial accounting, and service rules. The kind of rule is that usage renewable. I think these were the prominent rules that came up with the development activities because we need a rule to govern renewable. With the launching of 1961, so many development took place in every sphere. So we needed such kind of rules to ensure minimum compliance is renewable. Otherwise, if there are no rule, imagine the kind of world that we will build. People won't know what is their responsibility, what are non-compliances, what are compliances, what is expected of an individual as an official or somebody who is interested in powers, responsibilities to execute. So many, these were the starting point of, I think many rules started to come up from there after the launch of the 1961, first five-year plan in 1961. Then through a royal decree, Kasho in 1970, RAA the foundation date another 1970 we had 50th year anniversary last year 2020 1970 and through that royal Kasho, four royal auditors were appointed. These four royal auditors were representative of His Majesty, government, Trasung, and the civil service. Civil service. So they were at the rank of Garang Kim Chansamil, Buremap Shivi Chansamil. Then it was named as Royal Audit Office. The 1979 there were only four royal auditors. Then, in further institutionalizing the financial management system in the country, we had a financial manual in 1974 developed, and this office was placed under the Department of Minister of Finance. Digano Independence Middle Audit Institution. It was under the Minister of Finance. Then it was only in 1985 it was declared as autonomous body, Royal Audit Authority. Some kind of independence were granted with the declaration of audit institution as Royal Audit Authority. Then 1989, in further institutionalizing the system of audit in the country, the general auditing rules and regulations until 1989, rules chairman, I think that was totally based on a yardstick that were used purely based on judgment, some kind of good practices, they were only there that written document name. But with that gap, guards and it provided some kind of yardstick, some kind of criteria to measure the actual performance. Another gesunu, another hasunu, another chain symmetry, that kind of criteria, and also some kind of professionalizing the services in terms of skills, competence of auditors. Then in 2005, under the draft constitution, Royal Audit Authority, along with other constitutional bodies, were declared as constitutional body. It was under the draft constitution then. Then in 2006, now we had the Audit Act of Bhutan enacted. Then, 2 years into the adoption of parliamentary constitution and the parliamentary democracy in the country, the first Audit General Audit Bill. Then second, 2015. Then 2016, the important milestone that has happened with the Royal Audit Authority is the adoption of ISAI's level international standard for Supreme Audit institutions. Auditing standard, we are adopting international standard. So basically, we have three disciplines of audit. Now we Kingdom, performance audit, financial audit, compliance audit. So three streams basically. And the three streams, the guidelines, the standard guidelines adopted from ISAI. So we are trying to basically to enhance the quality of our product and also increase the credibility and reputation of SAI by complying with those standards. So this is just a glimpse of the historical evolution. So unknown hidden things what is there, what is missing here is there are successive kashos issued at various intervals of time. basically reiterating and reinforcing the independence of the institution. Sometimes the human resource independence is sometimes institution itself independence is reinforced because the importance of auditing institution the honestly additional level at one point of time even the auditors were given I think the senior people here might remember TED three times the civil servant. Some kind of incentives achievable that are rich Kapnali irregularities detect by watching 3 months get salary. That kind of incentives they were reinforcing. So in a way, it's to appreciate the wisdom of the success of monarchs. The kind of the need felt for the audit institution in the country. The good governance was always a priority on national agenda in the world. And so we take inspirations from all those success even in the constitution, the independence, the guarantee was all inspired from the success issues issued by the success monarchs. So this in brief, this is the historical information of Royal Authority. That currently the future model, maybe we'll have some reasons to say sometime later on why the 1920, 1921 based on RAA. So waiting for that. So basically, since 1961 and 2016, we were basically doing all sorts of reviews, auditing and reporting the data bill. We were also involved in investigation. That was the ECC investigation. Then that time we were also doing prosecution, the role which is being played by Attorney General's office. Then with the declaration of other constitutional bodies for different mandates, then actually that will be all the limited to reporting constitutional. So that the HEMA, you would have noticed also that previous prior to 2006 now, it is with Okana Kini, then there are prosecution going on, investigation going on, then actually they are limiting to auditing and reporting. So much basic why RAA should exist in the public sector now. Why it is important? Because that issue is all of us are stakeholder. We have a responsibility. Given the levels of our responsibility, the public official agency relationship in order to take care of the resources, to prudently use the resources, not indulging in the practices which are not desired. So it's very, really important to know why there should be a royal authority. So in any parliamentary democracy, the structures are created more, and we have elected representatives to act, to implement the will of the people, and act on behalf of the citizens. They have a certain trust, and they are also empowered to carry out their duties representing the voters, the voters or the citizens they represent. And also, it is done through a form of the legislative and executive bodies. So through the systems and structures created, the parliament entrusts and empowers the executives. Legislative policy plan, the parliament enact then it is the responsibility of the executives to execute the fund allocated by the fund appropriate by the it is given to the executives. Now executives they have the responsibility to deliver the accountability mechanism the cycle of accountability. Now in return executives they have an obligation to report back how much fund they have spent. Did they spend in a manner that is desired by the Parliament. So there should be some kind of obligation placed on the executives to report back how they have executed the directives of the Parliament. So and they have the recommendation and the obligation they have accountability to report back. But in the actual scenario, that's the ideal scenario in the world. But is it practical for the Parliament to scrutinize all the things that the executives have done? No, parliamentarians will not have time. Therefore, there should be some independent organization who scrutinize the work of these executives, whether the funds are spent in a manner that was desired and in compliance to relevant laws, orders, policies. There will somebody to report on behalf of, of the executives. When they report, we place an assurance on the reports that's been submitted by executives. Like for example, the financial statements, Yatang Midi, Zoya Konazu, Yatang Shabe, Panel Kage Chikcham Mebachin, who will place confidence in the financial statements submitted. The correctness, firstly, correctness, lawfulness, so that's why Supreme Audit Institution must exist in order to provide independent assessment and provide independent views of public sector activities, service delivery, stewardship of public funds through financial compliance and performance audit. So this is where the accountability cycle completes. So providing assurances on the, especially the simple work done by the executives. Now, basically, there are three streams. Firstly, it would be a financial thing. The financial report may be the correctness to government. Second is the performance. The audit key traditionally we were only checking the financial subject. But now we have something called performance accountability. If certain projects, program, help, we have a duty to report to the Parliament that this thing has not gone well. These things have not been implemented well. So that's why we have a performance audit. Then other thing, the compliance audit. Compliance audit are some deviations from the rules, laws, policies. If there are deviations, significant materially affecting the rule of law, then we have a responsibility to report that. So in order to report that, what is the prerequisite? Firstly, the audit institution like RAA should be independent. Why independent? Because without fear, favor, or prejudice, report the independence. I don't think we could be reporting independent more. So that's the crux of the matter. Then we have so many stakeholders, some audit agencies, some media, the bridge between the citizens and the government and the parliament, and this makes up the whole the universe of the audit agency as well as the accountability mechanism that we have in place. So if you have anything, the banner, so that we can discuss and please interrupt me. So only the Lalu country nalula auditing institution the mandate relation be by mandate nationally they cannot audit me. Lalu mandate yedi bureau report pending mandate me. This is because the national watching the mandate the constitution nara this is no one auditing mandate. There shall be role of authority to audit and report and as well as the audit act itself. So as far as RA is concerned, we have a strong mandate and even in terms of coverage, so wide anything that is involving public, gara audit be cho si. Just to let me run through audit process lah. The gara so basically the mandate is auditing level. So in auditing, that we do basically three types here. Special audits, certain circumstances now where we really need certain specific focus and review we take up a special audit bill. But in strictly speaking, this might fall under either of the three. It can be a performance audit, financial audit, compliance audit. Just the nature of assignment modality, because we need to do a sort of in-depth review bill. And reporting now, you must have heard. I think that's the public now. Annual audit report is the first. The annual audit report, annually we submit those reports to the parliament. You might have noted also that so much of deliberations happening based on the annual audit report submitted by the RAA authority. The annual audit report, the ANILA, is a consolidation of all the findings of the reports issued during the period, basically calendar year. 1 year now, the issue bigger at the specific entity level now. We try to consolidate this. There was the material is significant units. The deprivation then we come up with the annual audit report now. Now, annual audit report, now it's not only the issues that we're reporting. The important element here is we are also based on the issues synthesized. We also formulate audit recommendations. These audit recommendations are expected to be addressed by authorities. Basically, audit agency level not on the recommendation, things would be beyond your control, beyond your authority. The systemic issues which cannot be addressed by specific entities. I think there are authorities to listen to us. It is a tool to be used by parliaments, specifically through the Public Accounts Committee, to hold the executives accountable. Why you have done this? Why you haven't achieved this? And some tool used report basically to render improve decision making and also improvement system improvement mebachin 당아치기 대야 report recommendation 가든 내심이 배로 so the system improvement there needs to be certain interventions from the specific authorities. If it is relating to financial matters, the Minister of Finance is the authority, and it should be directed by Parliament based on our recommendations what needs to be done in order to improve certain things under that ministry. So, the main objective of having a recommendation in the annual audit report. Then we have that Gagar Kensai now the agency we have a specific report after every audit assignment. The BBC audit jobs should be issued that is a agency level audit reports. Then we have a certification report with a very important element of annual audit report. Consolidated financial statements of the royal government of Bhutan. Duty paper financial statement, annual financial statement, certified. The result of that certification would be included in the annual audit report. Then these are the Aegis advisory series is not that common. These are issued occasionally, not on a regular basis, based on the discretion of the Auditor General. If he thinks that certain sectors are not performing, certain issues are pervading, cutting across sector, which needs to be addressed for immediate improvement answering the subject matter, then he will develop kind of advisory series, and he will invite the attention of particular authorities to address it immediately. And so, the latest it was issued in 2015-16 on construction the procurement issue by the and in the coming years we would be concentrating more on such kind of reports. And now the improvement, we seek improvement in the interventions of authorities on an immediate basis. So these are the kind of reports, and report to agencies would include performance report, compliance audit report, and also the financial audit reports. And the unique system that we have, everybody knows the RAA. If you are negatively attached uh, with the RAA work na that could be the reason why we think that the linkage somebody must be held accountable on the issues reported based on the given responsibilities. We try to establish linkage of the lapses with the person involved based on his responsibility. So there was linking lapses with accountabilities. So I think 나라가 막힘지 명시라 direct supervisor, direct the official who is directly involved with the lapses position, direct accountability. Supervisor position, the supervisor role play by me, the user. So this is very unique to our country, and no SAIs, no auditing institution in other countries have this system. And in terms of ensuring accountability in the whole public sector, we are considered as one step ahead than others, especially on those areas. The much unique system is some sides are very much interested to come here and look at our system of fixing accountability. The much in terms of fixing accountability, I'm saying comparable to any developed SAIs we use. And the most important thing, if you are the accounts personally, which came, especially in our context, audit that since financial audit comes, and only people who are involved in engineering section and accounts, they would know all those processes. Like the other manager reports, other areas of operations, because audit kitty, 오이가 뭐야 맛이 저희가 차이가 맛이 report issue가 making me so follow up 잡들로 다른 얘기나 accountability do share 맛이 해서 한중인에 당도 that means there's no communication within the management. So 마치 follow up constantly at the team level now once the report is issued, 3 months will explain the follow up mass. This is the process how we logically render the process to logical conclusion render to any kind of issues that is raised in audit report. Sometimes much report with additional documents being submitted, with additional explanation given. Sometimes settle better issues solvable. So it's through those processes that we could do that. The audit level, the team level not be, the division level not be. Then we have a committee level at our own. EG is the chair. Then another then we have a financial committee where Minister of Finance, Minister MOF the chair, and the concerned secretaries, head of agency, and Auditor General is the member. Then they discuss those issues and render logical conclusion to those issues. The process done. If you have anything on this?
One accountability is person specific, no? Like, and then based on the chair position the person is holding. If that particular post or 50%, because when that particular person gets transferred, so he carries that responsibility with him, and maybe Prathan to post is chair specific, things like that.
Yes, if it is a lapses, the again, is the chair to if it is incurring loss, certain mullah to the organizations where he has to make good of the loss that the organization has sustained for the individual village of all. For example, if I have taken the excess payment of 5,000, when I am transferred, the person who is coming on my chair, it's not logically we will I should be responsible to repay the excess amount. So that would be a direct accountability. But if it is a supervisory position, yes, the lower people chiki consume directly but supervisory has not been benefited. But as a supervisor, he has the responsibility to follow up and recover in the wallet. In the process, the supervisor transfer for the watching next supervisor is automatically he has the obligation. That can be based on chair level because he is not directly involved. Supervisor is the Mavandigi, he has no personal obligation to repay that. So this is the distinction that we make.
But there's cash involvement and all that. But when it is like some war policy matter also sometimes. When the person gets transferred or he resigns from the company, someone else has to take accountability later
Anila, the logic is some lapses which cannot be attributed to a single person of origin. That cannot be.
and
Yes. Because of me, certain things happen, but I should be accountable. But if it cannot be attributed to one single individual, like BPC has sustained a loss of 200 million, who is going to give the accountability? It's an organization goal, it's not a specific individual. So you cannot fix accountability on an individual. And if the loss has been made because of one decision taken by even a committee, committee should be responsible for certain investment decision which have not gone right. Whether that investment appraised properly, feasibility, cost benefit, these are the animal process that need to be complied. The committee or single person who has put that project should be accountable. So that's a kind of logic that we are.
auditing finishes, no? Fixing the accountability.
Yes, there are always a time lag. Auditing post pending. We come in when everything is completed. There's an inherent risks in audit. Audit risks were zero. But only the better minimal. There are no other alternatives. Only if we can do some kind of concurrent audit. The concurrent audit the post audit. And that's why we are encouraging the role of internal auditors in our agency to be more concurrent, to be proactive in preventing. So basically, if you can prevent, that's better. So it's inherent weakness in auditing. Time like the numbers of 5-6 years observation, then you cannot even trace a document. Document the bhasha, the mirror trace me most of So
Taking as the moon of country that is to engineering companies
actually, there are certain systems that work. Like for example, say ministry access failed in delivering certain things. So he has moral obligation to resign level. That kind of moral obligations. There are no legality beyond. If I, as a Minister of Health, then I that the pandemic of health issues of watching. I just cannot hold on to my chair when my subordinates are failing. My work is failing. I should have moral obligation to step down. I think this is where the moral obligation.
But per se, I mean, if you like, KG doesn't explained in the presentation, earlier presentation, this is one of the unique arrangements. That's why we have lots of our peer supreme audit institutions, audit organizations interested in our working arrangement. So, Dr. If you ask specifically about India, also answering accountability fixed.
The SSP
moral responsible by
who that by choice now but especially when it comes to public accountability, so there should be one way of fixing accountability. Remember the unity. So much in maybe because of you have a lesser population, smaller government, smaller size of public service. That and that's considered as the best practice by others.
Okay, Chidi, I think it depends on the mandate that Chidi is because even to the extent that the RA during the order of constructions, we go and do the physical verification, measurement take the one. But in other countries, Kongi ani take the because I think maybe to a certain extent it depends on the mandate of organizations.
Can the accountability be assigned to more than one person?
Yes,
Can you go to 10 or 15?
yes. If that lapse has happened, can attribute it to multiple people. It could. Follow up the because certain things which cannot be resolved at the first instance that very much meeting report now to the world. After report and the report is issued, we provide 3 months the action taken period after 3 months now the action taken report being RA na the response the GJO additional responses, additional justifications, additional documents prepared. So, Rich Kapmaji, at the time of finalizing the report, would not have obtained such kind of documents or justifications. The 3 months now, anything actions needed to be taken by management report, improvement budget, that should also come as action taken report. Then after 3 months there, then action taken report to be sent to RAA. Then once the action taken report is received by RA, then again they will review. We have a separate division, the department associated. They will review the justification, the appropriateness, sufficiency. If they can settle the matters based on additional things, and if that could be settled Bishop, settled Bemas Ocean, again what kind of future course of action need to be taken by the management. This will come as follow-up reports. Until and unless issues has reached a logical conclusion based on whatever additional things the audited agencies submit, this will go on evaluative possible. So, and it's cycle look.
그래서 확실히 또 좋은 거.
So, in the last yes, certain things within the authority of auditing agency, we also have the levels of follow-up being taken. It finally reaches to the parliament member. Nowadays, you must have seen on the news, PEC is taking follow-up meetings with the agencies, specific agencies. The temporary payments, why this cannot be done. They will recommend, but last now the Auditor General has the final authority to solve the issue. So we'll take into their recommendations also in resolving the issues. The knowledge most pending there just as information. But court cases this is the cell jomas were done illuminable. When the case is subject is we cannot take any action on this pending very illuminable. Then these cases of absconding cases mil knowledge damas police not down in the cases. So most of the cases are those kind of cases pending. Actually, that is with the rigorous follow-up mechanism that we have in place. Result significant is being addressed and resolved. The change is just to highlight the basic difference between these three streams of audit. Financial audit, the determining whether entity's financial information is presented in accordance with the applicable financial reporting and regulatory frameworks. Whether true and fair view, Mijimega, opinion experience spending in the financial auditors basically. So mostly as a financial audit that's mostly actually until 2012, 13, most of the things that RAA get into was financial auditing. And then performance audit comes started since 2007, 8, which started institutionalized by the 3, and that is full-fledged better. We have 2 divisions to carry out this performance audit, thematic, theme-based audits. So under the basically the financial audit will ensure financial accountability in the public financial management system. The performance audit performance accountability is like plans, programs of the government or the public sector. It's now evaluate, assess, review by the ruler. In such targets within the budget these elements fall under this performance audit. And other thing is very specific technical subject matter, IT audit, environmental audit, performance audit. Then we have compliance audit that is Zoom. Basically to see the compliance to rules, regulations, laws, authorities. So basically promotes the rule of law, actually rule compliant society to actually promotes we want. This is the primary objective that we are looking to achieve. So these basically 3 streams of it. A bit technically, just to flash kind of assurances. The audit assignment is assurance engagement. Well, any audit assignment is assurance. Assurance you will that they have done is that to the parliament that the government has spent money in a manner desired as per the applicable laws and rules and well assurance. So then opinion express opinion. Absolutely betting there is no absolute assurance. And the entity has done so well, extremely well. There's no risks of any fraudulent practices. And assurance we auditing internationally we cannot give absolute assurance. We give a reasonable assurance. Yes, based on the audit procedures performed, based on the sufficiency of the evidences, appropriateness of evidences, that we can reasonably conclude that this agency has maintained rules of records, maintained true and fair law, and some conclusions. So that's conditional level. But sometimes fraud may happen. This will not happen detected by the auditor. But it should be very substantive. The audit procedure is run with this even wider in scope. And some material aspect is captured there. And auditor should be satisfied that things are going well. And that kind of issue is absolute. Limited technical, it may not be of interest to you also. So, and the specific assignment where you give negative assurance. As per what he does, he should international standard of Supreme Audit Institution adoption. What we are looking for is basically as a Supreme Audit Institution. We look forward to contribute to providing value and benefits, making difference in lives of citizens. The constitution, the audit institution, the parliamentary, the democratic system is an important player in the world because it promotes desirable values and underpins accountability mechanism. Because once we submit a report, the public has authority to hold their elected representatives accountable in the world. Because how does that happen? The context of the parliament is elected by people, the resources belong to the public more, and they have a responsibility to spend the resources prudently and also perform them. If these things do not happen, public will hold them accountable. How do we hold accountable? Directly or accountable is should be more as well. The next 5 years now, it goes to a people sport nine ball. When they bought out, if they exercise the franchise based on their performance and their conduct, then we have a way out to vote them out. So that kind of in a democracy and assume develop and audit institution come there and it plays a very significant role in increasing the trust in society based on our audit reports. The kind of assurances that we provide the government relation domain as well based on our report. That remember that influences positive behavior in even not only the elected representatives like people like you and me like doing the civil service and the public services. We have an obligation to certain duties to fulfill in the world. And there's a system whereby we can place accountability at every level of the world. Everybody they go question. Ideally that should happen with so in order to make contribution to society, making difference to the lives of citizens by promoting transparency and actually these are the objectives of basic objectives of the Supreme Court Constitution. Then that's not in order. No. First is strengthening accountability, transparency, integrity of government and public entities. It's through that process, auditing and reporting, then public last of the people level, but in the intermediate stages now, parliaments should be able to hold the executives accountable based on our audit reporting level. If audit has reported some poor performances, some irregularities in financial matters, they should be asking that particular executives, why did you do that? Why didn't you comply with the rules? Why is there poor performance? In Zimbabwe, they have the authority to hold officials in positions accountable in the world. Then through that process now there, this is how we promote it. Accountability, transparency, integrity of government. Sanibation if it is a positive approach. We build trust in society level. If government is doing well, and our report shows that it's doing well, public can the credibility of the government will increase, enhance, and there's a trust in the government or any authority that's governing the citizens in Mula. So that's this is the premise on which we have the accountability mechanisms. It is through that process that we try to enhance accountability, which is a very essential component of democracy level for a stable democracy. If you have trust in society and the transparency accountability encouraged and enhanced, that's a sign of a very stable democracy. Then other things, being a model organization through by example. That's now that RAA vision is not should be model, as if I am the so perfect one. No. So RAA did not swim high level integrity in the simulation model this Krishna model is natural model. When you criticize other, rather should be placed in such a place where you do not have any criticisms. You should have reputation, credibility first. Then only you can say that. So these are the principles of public sector auditing worldwide. So as a Supreme Auditing institution, we cannot claim that we are that level of integrity easily, but we strive to be a model of operation through various strategies that are there in our plans. As a RAA version, what kind of internal governance we have, kind of transparency and accountability system that we should have within ourselves. Ele chamching as a proponent based in the level. RAA should be the coalition based so that nobody will trust us. So that's the objective of being a model organization. Then demonstrating ongoing relevance to citizens, parliaments, and other stakeholders. So when you develop strategies, especially strategic plans, the kind of work that we do. We are existing for certain stakeholders level. The Kongi expectations now Madivachi, we are not relevant. So as a Supreme Court institution, we strive to respond to the expectations of the stakeholders. Stakeholder expectations that we emerging risks in the country gachituga. That will be themes gachituga. Like for example, unemployment situation is a problem in the country. We should proactively undertake this thematic study and report why there is issue of unemployment, why there is a slowdown of economic growth. And so well, it's a theme-based priority na the country give top priority na these are the issues. So discerning expectations of stakeholders is very important, and this is one of the strategies that we have identified in our strategic plan. That will be strategic plan that has been there. The process that we undertake is, like for example, if we are going to take a performance audit bago with some mean, first we solicit feedbacks from the stakeholders. Basically, the public nodding that's we have studies to go public also. Certain things we pick up from newspapers, knowledge social issues, economic issues, issues on the world, like drinking water problem. The problem would be reported in newspapers. The potential do's. Then we solicit from the parliamentarians, topic that's important. Team and some solicit Bevela. Then also we do on our own text research. Then a topic this Bevela, we make up into a 5-year plan, that portfolios of 5-year strategy plans. There, but this strategy plan is not static, it's very dynamic. Annually it will change because priorities change, risks change, the challenges change. Anyway, in the national, then actually we have certain parameters. Topic is a list down baby, then we assess against each parameter and we assign weights. That's international practice. Last top 10 or top 5 we consider for any purpose. If resources allow, we can take up more, but the fact that we have limited resources, prioritization will go well, and maybe that. Hospitality, yes, yes. So, on a hospitality, the financial audit of the law, there were some inconsistencies reported across the sector. It is an issue there. Then we thought there is a problem at the national level now. Then we chose this topic and did a some kind of specific review on engineering. The you can give examples. There was a problem at the reporting station. Road transport safety. So these are based on certain statistics. When compared death per thousand accident, number of accident cases per thousand, one of the highest to that's some kind of indicator that something's wrong with us. So we want to really know why this is happening, why those things cannot be comparable to other even our neighboring countries. So these are social issues. And other thing would be portals of Kilby, entity based also. And very recently we did a portals of NRTC operational partners. So some of the topics are being directed by Parliament, which applies. Then some we do a lot of assessment based on so many parameters, materiality, social life impact, significance of financial significance, how it would add values after we did the audit. There are so many parameters based on that we select the topic. So this is where we are trying to be relevant by responding to the challenges, to the rates, and also the expectations of the stakeholders. Over Garab Bedos the Shumishin striving striving to achieve that objective. Even, so basically just to do some Anira, that is assuming certain principles. This is actually Isai proponent. Like the first one is studying accountability, transparency, integrity of government and policy. First is safeguarding independence of size. Why do we need independence? That you should be why RAA should be independent? The audit with fear or prejudice. The independence is not limited to only functioning the reporting. The human resource independence government, financial autonomy government, and you are determining your own organization structures because the Daira, other agencies influences how RA should work because we cannot be really functioning independently. So everything would be compromised. This is really younger the world, and this is the principles being propounded all over the world for any supreme order institution. And then second is understanding. So analogy, the independence is guaranteed by the constitution and the act. As far as that adequacy is concerned, it's totally adequate. It's comparable to any international supreme court institution. The second is carrying out audits to ensure the policy and stewardship over municipalities. You have amended to audit under those three streams of audit and you go similar. The third one, enabling those charged with policy the governance to discharge their responsibility responding to audit findings and taking appropriate actions. So enabling, like we are submitting a report to the parliament, and parliament hold onto a report and then hold the public officials accountable person. We are rendering, facilitating them to hold those responsible accountable. Then reporting on audit results, thereby enabling the public to hold government and public sector agencies accountable. Tamasic audit the base report mate watching. The answer SAI use Shinila. There are like mostly in African countries. The whole one that kind of individual mandate may be na been for famous be na kind of situation environment that audit jobs are they are not able to issue the report. That kind of accountability mechanism in our auditing institution. Imagine now the arbitro, the Machigi report the report published Mavia Shah Simiti that seems that means we are open, transparent, and it reflects the credibility and reputation of the government in the country. So such kind of status actually. Then other things demonstrate that ongoing relevance to citizens, parliaments, being responsible, changing environments, and communicating effectively with the stakeholders. That is this kind of evidence we did. We communicate the actually auditing illa gachinam the audit heat that we are limited by mandate, we are not supposed to do that. So watertight compartment, creating silos sumchimibal. Now what should drive us to work together and collaborate? We have a common goal in high school progress. That should be the inspiring factor for all of us, Sanghi women. So in order to understand each other, there should be a continuous engagement. Because audit report the collaboration management action and me, corrective action and me, and there are leveraging. Ultimately, there's no improvement because to bring improvement in the overall system, we need both the sides to work collaboratively. Well, so much key recent times now. Yes, it may be right. Also, the perception that's going on is also RA is doing nothing. The improvement windows and very recently so article. Yes, to some extent it could be correct. We also have responsibility. But equally, Other side also has a responsibility. The ball is in both the courts. The RAA के audit job report official में implementing initiative मावेची. RAA cannot go to that management and handhold ball. That kind of perception here, that kind of thoughts here actually is an audit institution. Read very well. So we need both sides. Actually, country level approach. Everybody needs to take responsibility. So ultimately, it is our country, it's our governance system that if we can take to a greater height, that nothing like it. Then being a critical source of independent oversight, objective guidance to support change in the public sector. So that we should be conscious now as a audit institution. Tanga ka go with the D, it should be anything that audit points out should be contested. The audit given me the correctly say no, there was so why should audit could be wrong also because the experts are sitting on the other side. We are no expert on the subject matter. If it is concerning BBC, how BBC is functioning, how we will it. I may come as independent, but raise some issues. It should be contested. And the principles of contradictions in our process, it should be contested. We should leave no room for having multiple interpretations. The solution the other much today and many similarity. Over now. Direct access payment and activity based on certain parameters and things. But there are certain management issues, certain strategic issues where you really need to debate, come to a consensus. That what you get and the stand in a we are not going to do one. This is the kind of thing that we are taking as one of the principles. Then being a model organization through leading by examples. How do we be a model to others? Actually, there's a model with the whole. We are striving simultaneously. Maybe we may not be a model institution just now, but in future we should be striving for that. We should be at least aware what is happening and how to conduct ourselves as a Supreme Court institution. We should be beyond reproach and with the word. So first principles that spoken about ensuring appropriate transparency, accountability, size. Naturally now the transparency, the accountability, well, otherwise we cannot propose to others. Then ensuring good governance of size, how we function, what kind of administration structures are in place, formation of committees, self-governed way. Then how do we report the use of public resources? Even RA uses public resources. We are paid by the public. We should be accountable for the use of the public fund that's these are the elements of internal good governance of RA. So then how do we subject ourselves to external scrutiny and audits? Similar to any audit agencies, we should be audited and should be reported to Parliament results of our performance. This principle is concerning then complying the SAS code of ethics. Even the auditors function ethics stands. That way, proposed being ethics consciousness within our organization. That way, proposed. How do we reinforce the ethical behavior of our auditors? And so having this also contribute to being important for other entities. Then striving for service excellence and quality. Natural report quality membership. People will not place any trust and confidence in RA's work. If I give one recommendation, just trash it. Achieve for me. So we should be critical enough through our professional competence and skills. The recommendation that I give to the management should be implementable, should be forward-looking, and should be capable of adding value to the organization. So in order to be in that position, need competence skills upgrade with all auditors. Otherwise, the Jumumi will lose with it. And the Begoban was actually the credibility, repetition, honor. Then capacity building through. So capacitating our own staff for this professionally. Yes, not because we might be seen to posting the garage at the individual level also we know most of all in a very close knit society nationality Garat. Some of your friends may be auditors they not they should posting to but that issues where we are striving to build overall competency of our employees and what we have is continuous professional development continuing professional development policies so we have to update skilling in this many. So any principles to how much in then you would be able, you would be capable of delivering value and benefits to society, making a difference to lives of citizens. So our strategic plan, yeah, what inspirations from this another way of it. Whatever strategies that formulate, we try to follow those principles. What status that we achieve the Vega, Abega, the Shumishibe, whatever things that do as an institution in order for us to deliver value and diversity, then ultimately the theory institution. That may be of some interest to most of you. Common audit issues, it also preventive measure that we can adopt one. These are not exhaustive, some selective audit issues just to share to the program. So basically, in a very simple term, RAA irregularities 3 billion to research internal report to once the annual audit report is published and submitted to the parliament. So basically, what is irregularity? Some have understood. Tourism is not maybe so broadly, something that is not visual or proper. That's you're supposed to do that way. You're done this way. Not the method, but the process that you're doing. There's a criteria, the rules rule the criteria you have to meet this. The rule the follow there's a deviation from rules. That division is the practice that is conform to normal laws, practice specific rules. So in a simple term, that even in the financial audit, ordinance audit, or compliance audit, the difference between the actual condition and the criteria. And then beyond that, the committee intentionally to benefit, having with the ultimate motive of benefiting the virgin. Simply is a problem. And there are things which are done intentionally. Mismanagement happens. Where similarly, your portfolio reports, some overlook, oversight to the error in the but the honey is significant in based on materiality, what kind of impact that will have on the ship or level or the sector level. So this is just a kind of very simple, simply put, actually RAA report with the Hagiti Makorabio, a 2 year where professional judgment applies. The Hagi there will be very few cases that RAA would have detected fraud, corruption, and that. not as much as this one, because 당시 하기 아니라 다시 우시도 좀 되나. The investigation, prosecution, auditing is available. 당시 auditing 배에 only through audit processes 나는 같이 벌비나 오버친 then 잠시 시간 다스비. Otherwise, yes, there are responsibilities of auditors also to consider the possibilities of frauds being committed, but yet the audit procedures that we run may not be adequate to detect the fraud. 아니야, defense institution. 해당 마친 날로 돈 밑이 fraud cases with very much audit report prima facie evidence that there is existence of fraud which is established based on something. Otherwise, much that goes to this category. That's why we are saying high mid chugui, the high mid boundaries, because we couldn't establish them. There could be different types of excess payment where in cases where you can establish that he has done deliberately, there could be circumstances where you cannot really establish whether it's being done deliberately. Yes, in order to derive undue benefit. The truth is can be not by only mistakes, can be deliberate, but you auditors do not have documents to prove beyond reasonable doubt that it's fraud. So things which are featuring in this category might also have elements of frauds that are carried. How that zero tolerance, I think is better than the current system. I think it's just for all of us. The 파기다 지금 fraud 됩니다. 지금 system now audit report now we have a category voting corruption, investment, voting corruption. Anything actually. Further, we send a copy of this report, such report, to Anti-Corruption Commission for further investigation, further establish fraud or any other ulterior motives established. There are other things falling under this category based is possible through follow-up system, regular follow-up system that we have. So, how do we distinction? The anal yagi taluna bewachin the much accountability is very serious. System driven stick usually yagi talu. The magina bewachin, yes, you have a responsibility to resolve based on importance, severity, and like the usually. So like just to run through some examples, actually mostly
explain about the name. This just a list of observation category that we have in our system, which is mismanagement fund, mismanagement properties, the mismanagement was any category in the two. The funds, the mismanagement was first category. I don't think I really need to explain on this because it's just. This category, I think people in the finance and accounts section are quite familiar with these categories, but Shins will not so familiar, but you can still read through. So especially in the works contracts negotiation, unnecessary observation categories. So we have tried to categorize the audit findings according to the functions and natures. So these are some of the types of observations that we have in our system. So contracts na version and procurement na version procurement under we try to categorize. These are all under not not uh, not being included under the first category and mismanagement fraud and corruption. The violation, the mismanagement under this issue.
Maybe recent recent the usually can be funded
Actually, anyway, this might lead to a part because the, for example, the Jalatino, the photocopy, this original bill is not yet submitted memo. It can be submitted anytime. The book has additional expenditure. That's the risk. But much also the memo, if you can if assure that this original copy will not be submitted in future, and assure information, not a violation, and the issue is admissible. So in future, that original will be very handy.
In case of DRC, this test they don't give us it because of lockdown. Some days will be like direct and that is
Based the circumstances, the teacher they want certain things we need to relax. The COVID situation now, the unfavorable situation. But if the management can assure that these things will not happen, the coaching should be okay. But what is the assurance that management will provide? Not even the Minister of Finance, they might not be able to do this particular point of time. But that would be hoping over the long run. Strictly speaking, it's object level, but based on circumstances, in good faith now,
Especially the photocopy. Like, in not particularly in BPC, but we have come across certain cases where the Laguna project in Laguna LCF two long accounts. So what they did was we have come across that case. Original PPP for project na charge by photocopy na else na charge by double pay na ano kamo. So that's how they intentionally elevate.
that's basically exclusive education. So that's why we are not encouraging that.
How can you identify whether it is photocopy originally? Because nowadays what happens is email or memo, it says it is HOD. So the printer will not know whether it is original or not.
Digitally generated version, then it's considered as a authentic version. But that is still manual with human. That's how. So just quick through the presentation. In case if you have any clarification here on yours, you can always interrupt and raise, otherwise. It's okay. For any EPC and some revenue cases, I think I'm telling you. Especially any construction the unflammable, otherwise heavy normal operations, the expenditures, there are some issues with the work. The only thing is when there's a construction like the REE, there will rural electrification, there will urban electrification, there will SG, rural. If it's something related to construction, then you have that cases of over payments, excess payments, works not executed as per the specification, and that
Non-net report or particular accounts.
That's all the things are not applicable to EPC only. Government budget, any government department executed like dismantle items with registration.
Address account and maintenance item.
So requirement is
material is like
just pick up the common things. These are not exhaustive, just pick up some few.
so. That's all the causes in error. Okay. Why these are attributable factors for shortcomings. Now, these are some of the possible uh, causes for deficiencies, like one could be inadequate internal control. Laguna, even some of the companies, the newly established companies like state-owned enterprises, like Chubu, GBCL, FNCL, also internal auditing in the world. Now, the PC has, but according to the size that she ongoing. So one factors could be inadequate internal control. Other could be there could be a control, but there's an overriding of controls by top management. This could also lead to deficiencies and lapses in the work. Then third one is poor documentation. That's something to do with the management process in the work. So for everything, actually, set of processes about more documentation. In most of the cases, lack of documentation leads to inadequate efficiency. Then another thing is non-compliance, basically non-adhering to the rules and regulations and provisions of certain policies and guidelines. Then it leads to inadequacies and deficiencies. Then, especially in our context, one could be lack of absorptive capacity, which basically means that the audited entities do not have competent people to implement plans and programs. So, unable this also leads to shortcomings and deficiencies. And rationalization, deviation becoming accepted norms. This is one element where you can relate to fraud triangle. This morning, I think the SC people must have familiarized you on the fraud triangle. So fraud triangle, any rationalization is in your work. So I don't think I'll need to explain it now. Morning and I will remember. The seventh one is intentions. Intentions of the implementers. So the intention they should be watching, then it automatically leads to the non-compliance, irregularities, shortcomings, lapse restrictions. From all such potential remedies could be actually internal control frameworks, also frameworks in the world. So it's a modern management concept in the I'm sure now you're familiar with this control framework. So basically, it has got five components. The first one is control environment. So which basically means that so first one is control environment code, which basically means that taking turns by the top of the management, creating enabling condition for internal controls to flourish, like setting or instituting internal audit unit and so. So that's how you create in control environment. The next is having a risk assessment unit within the company. Like in the business, basically the main function is to assess the risks, risks of the BPC, which would I mean like hinder or obstruct BPC in achieving its uh, business objectives, like strategic objectives. There are many objectives. So, any risk appetite measure, then what type of risks you'd be able to take, any type of purchase in the world. Then along with that, you need to have control activities being implemented, like segregation of duties, verification and review process. Once you implement those in the world, then you have the information and communication throughout the internal control stream of law. So that you have adequate and timely feedback where the controls are failing. Any goes in. And finally, you have to have monitoring the control activities. So having all those four components without having monitoring activities nearby, then it also does not become an effective internal control. So another thing is as simple as that. Try to comply with the due process and requirements of the laws and regulations. So that in itself will remedy the problem in the world if you comply with the requirements. So another could be professionalism, enhancing the professionalism. So through instituting of standards, policies, and bound, and comply with everything, then only remedy the own human. So
just to not being boastful, we thought that some of the things that have resulted, some of our works, auditing, reporting works have resulted in these impacts. Firstly, parliamentary directives based on our audit, regular auditing, the changes that we see based on the deliberations that's happening in the parliament, and obviously the session to that time of the we devote almost 2 to 3 days on audit reports. If you have documents of the reports that were specific report now, they devote a very substantial time on discussing this. And it's very encouraging for the world authority. And firstly, it quicks the animal to discuss Benigi opportunity, discuss Benigi and that basis human knowledge. Secondly, it's awareness amongst the general citizens, like how the government is functioning, which sectors are faring well, what probably not well, uneven. So there are so many parliament resolutions that have resulted from such deliberations. We thought that that was because of the reports and communications. And some of the reports which led to unanimous decision directives from the whole historic where GGA is based on our report. And without the achievement of all out. It is only through the integration of directives that all recommended changes will make a difference in the world. The other thing is improve compliance rules and regulations. This is totally speaking from our experience. The much audit we see so much improvement in the agencies. 10 years back it was not the same institution, that even in terms of having internal control systems, having proper documentation, good job. That's also a sign of overall financial management systems, governance, and the public sector. So, extending internal control systems with the especially introduction of internal audit systems in various companies now, even in the government has started having internal auditors in place. So I think that also improvement bringing the enhanced uniform certification of rules and regulations. Already that was the main approach. Any report you look at it, you see inconsistent application of rules. Lalu it's na top way, lalu nama top way, lalu chupana umbe. That kind of funny. Animal is stable. But we see a great improvement. I think because of our regular auditing, we would have contributed. So just want to share the details of corruption. This is totally invisible. What's audit period? Audit corruption and chitus annual report number. People merging with us in the world because things are happening in the world. The fact that audit exists, it really knocks the conscience of the people who are careful, exercise due diligence, prudence, exercise very and more than detecting the vigilance spirit actually should be more, more important to create vigilance and improve accountability in use of public. So ultimately, to improve the accountability of resources through transparency and accountability in public operations. So the compound that we take is compared to 10 years back, much audit you would have also experienced as a management. Now, if you are auditor should request that. Even if you have plan audits, listen because people know the value of auditing. Why they need to be audited? That when you are audited, then now the credibility that people know that. 10 years back, auditing eliminated. Then also some of the models. But I think that place is taken over by ISIS now. Just jokes and banter. But we see so many positive feedbacks from the stakeholders. And in a way also reflects the kind of value that we are adding to the management. And it's encouraging them for one of the as a supermarket institution to collaborate and work together for common goal of creating enhancing new governance in the country. So that's a very positive thing. That's actually so. This is our only visible impacts. We don't consider this as impact. What is recovery is it's sort of very erratic trend. Actually, we should like this as well, but it's not happening. There could be many reasons. One could be the size of operations of the whole public increase job. There could be so many deficiencies now, but anyway, it doesn't. We don't attach any correlation between governance system and other. Just the information we have and it is because and the paradox in the world. Paradox. If you consider this as primary motive, primary objective, covering more and more young. We want somebody to commit crime as well, and which is not also objective. Best thing is, it is true to ideally it's good, but it would also show inefficiency of auditor. It is such a Dharam was in there. So there are so many interpretations that are attached to this string.
Also, if these people bring them, country is not a problem because the specific issues.
It could be interpreted many ways. So actually, as an audit, we don't really attach any correlation between the improved governance, audit governance. There are so many factors that we are so just as information, that 143 million years, nothing for a country. but it excludes the recoveries made on corporations or financial institutions. Let me search in that. What that is the deterrence is most important than the only enemy. Let's have it. We have to treat this. Lapses that happen, we are treating that. We don't want that disease to come up. We are preventing by the deterrence created by RAA, that is the sole motive. Automatically, the financial institution, we need to see the animal about training. So it's not for one or other. We don't want to see increasing recoveries because of the lapses, increasing lapses happening in the agencies. So this is the most repeated questions in asked every year. I think we take this question, explain it. The Rajesh Subbarayan, as a model institution, what are the strategies in place to ensure that we become a model organization? What are the aspects the internal governance issue, one of the principles to have good internal governance within ourselves. And within the good internal governance knowledge, one important thing is audit. You should be answerable for the resources, public resources used by 아직도 auditing, 아직도 WHO, to so this is not a new concept that has been going on since many years. Maybe Lachigi audit is being appointed by the parliament from the panel list appointed by they audit us on the regular basis, annual basis. But as the Chamchi, we had a talk, especially with the statutory auditors for last financial year. We are already appointed and we are continuing the audit. Their annual audit report is submitted to the parliament in the annual audit report. Report that now we submitted to the issue. Then besides that, Nasira internal audit, in the Libya, we have four regional offices, one PDC and one headquarters. Achara team form bebe, anyway, randomly with team randomly with select we send to the auditors. Then report the audit committee to review the independently reviewed by the audit committee, management, and we have the auditors, internal auditors appointed by the committee, and they have fixed terms of reference. That's because you get it. This is the director of the committee. Then, other than auditing, we have a system of peer review. We are not only reviewed by auditors, we have a essay of other countries coming here and looking and assessing us. The assessment is not only financial matters, we are being assessed the whole operations of the one authority. Audit chapter report issue does it conform to the ESI? Does it she will ESI says standard enterprise? They will check on the compliance with those ESIs. They will check on the quality of report that we issue. Check in the issue. One, the members could be any other SAS, top regional, international. Then, beyond this, we have also have the assessment called SIP, Shipping of Institution Performance Management Frameworks. Another holistic assessment of RAA. If you are interested, the latest report was uploaded beginning of this year. Webinar is all round performance study in terms of complying with the international practices. That was done by the international IDAC, the Site Development Initiative. Is one of the international organizations for Supreme Audit institutions around the world. So, it's not only financial matters, it also looks at the quality of the auditors, qualifications of auditors, the quality control system that you have, quality assurance that you have, then independence, then human resource capacity, and there you will see the rating like A, B, C, you're interested, you can visit our webpage, look at those reports. And one unique thing, even to this, most of the SAS, which is SIPUF assessment reports now, they are very reluctant to publish the report now. It's the second time we are publishing those reports because we chose our weakness to work. And single weakness, mommy, which they don't publish. We just trash it. But we for transparency and accountability. And even the parliamentarians or oversight bodies should ask us based on that report of value and this issue. So that peer review committee once in 5 years be job of na act na rakhi di issue. Last the I don't know whether it really met expectations of the management in terms of creating awareness, talking about the roles and all. We thought of really design and that's not much about plot elements to the Pachamchila in the Bureau, ACC US novella. These are more relevant to ACC's development. So we thought that repeat only ways no tigila. Even in terms of explaining certain processes of auditing specific to three streams of audit here, now to be interesting no tigila. We include because it's a little bit technical in nature with tigila. So really do not know whether our presentation met your expectations. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, we can spare some time.
normally 20 years in that navigation. Or
Yes,
the
yes.
version, I mean, develop digital study.
Now, that time in Ebola, like you said, that was the requirement made by relevant authorities like MOW. So much important we just insist compliance to the requirements already stipulated by the relevant authority. Now, if this is the case, in its digital age now, if there's no need to maintain that, the first thing is they should realize and change the rules. Naturally, don't have that making. We just see the compliances with the existing rules being together. I think if you need clarifications, you might follow with them requirement, they might change the requirement. The rule the relevant for but the relevance the still continue to watching then it becomes a there was a gap in the actual condition and the criteria.
Salmona. First one is that in terms of direct claims. Now, while fixing the direct account in terms of what is under the purview of the delegation, supervisor will have the right to appoint the right to, but at times in the IAS
And the Thandra issue was without really having a responsibility model. That means the person who is not appropriate, the lapses cannot be directly attributed to that person if he is held accountable. It's logically, principally not correct in human. So supervisor having by virtue of having a higher position cannot just be fixed on somebody who is not at all accountable. Only, even if you go to a court, the court can never formula. So anybody who's held accountable without involving in the lapses watching, not right now. We have so many such cases. Just among history, Emma 10 years back, accountability got audited fixed by the audit team because they are supposed to know who is responsible for what. Any problem then, sometimes auditors can only be a fixed better than one. Then so many acquisitions came to audit. Then after that we had some meetings. So we realized that some accountability wrongly fixed pay. Why not we give the right to fix accountability to management? The management gi fixed pay be jidela. Again, similar case wrongly fixed pay. The boss ki not fixed pay ngamme boss in mid base. This situation do well. Then actually we always say that fix on the right person. But in the payroll, if you feel that it's not right, the management has to know more. How can this be fixed on me sir, when I'm not involved in it? Any right to your decision. The Indira Perula Machi Katulina. Now, very recently, the Anzum Beochin, first we give management to fix the accountability, based on which auditors will review it. Right ina, menadina. If it is wrongly fixed, we'll again ask the management wrongly fix. But sometimes underlay the Mishiva the Mola, the nature of responsibility is differently complex from you don't know who is accountable. Something where I think it needs to be sorted out between the employee and the supervisor. The Mahovera Shagor is by any law, even if you are in the court of justice now. If you are wrongly penalized, then I think that right may be penalized.
See, just to supplement, and in case Dr. Tona explained everything, we provide the opportunity to the management to fix the accountability first. The right way accountability situation is we get changing. Now, if it's wrongly fixed, then we again once again get back to the management and then ask them to fix accordingly. No, draft from to fix this. If in case the audit team knows that the site supervisor particular to fix the deviation, they have to pay the how much. Now, see, look, there are the management, look, the right person to fix this. But despite that, the rule of the wrong, then we have that audit authority. We have the approach in there. The audit team can change the accountability and fix that. So team fix it should be.
Second question the second question is again audit the auditor they have the mechanism. So similar to that one, do you still feel that other agencies like government sectors not consuming this which is doing?
But actually, to the assessment, the very objective of having assessment is for improvement in the moment. If you have a desire to further improvement, that would be desirable in the world.
Of course,
But
I say that one we are not submitting that the auditors are jobs, but we have that proper check and balance in case something goes wrong. We are we will have that also
like ISO, these are similar assumptions. We were the most, whether it conforms to that. These are kind of the desires, the organization to improve further. Desire, why not so that? But I don't know what kind of relevant organization would be fit for agencies like DPC. 당아지기 야기 배워진 auditing 말고 they are also auditors somewhere else that they come and see how we are really complying with those standards. But for you, technical level, there are so many other areas to look into. Well, really, that would be difficult to say from the mouth of auditor.
In the annual audit report that goes to Parliament, does all the unresolved observations goes or like that's a case for beyond this? So,
Yes, sir. Anila, in the audit report now, if it is fraud, corruption, that category first nine, but irrespective of the amount we put in, but if it is not categorized as a fraud and corruption member, so we have a threshold of 50,000. 50,000. That's the latest one, damage number. 50,000 above, 30 na चाहिए ना. I don't know exactly. Threshold yield.
Because I think we've got consider, for instance, we've done a lot now. I think because I think you learn the thing that was a little chicken at the window. The judge you thank you.
Thank you.
Fidelis.